Hey everyone, welcome to another deck review where I'll be going over a pretty tuned list that I've tested with. I really wanted to take this leader and push this leader to the next level and just try and see if this deck was good. And turns out the deck is pretty good. It's not going to be the best deck in the game by any means, but it's very, very fun to play and I think would be very interesting for y'all to check out. All right, so what I'm going to be going through today is a double cunning Lando Calrissian leader deck, and it's a very, very strong deck. It's got very good plays. It has decent game into most decks, and as you can see, the sideboard has like 15, 16 cards in it or something like that for testing purposes. But this is not a list I would take to a tournament to get first place, but it's definitely something I would build that I could go 3-4-0 at my locals and win and have a lot of fun playing the game. And this deck is something that my personal private testing group that I'm in, we've played quite a bit, and it just didn't feel good enough to beat, Sabine and things like that consistently, but it's a very, very fun deck to play. And I think there's potential here for maybe some of you in the community to take this, to iterate on it, to make it better, potentially make it a meta deck that could rival some of the current best decks in testing. All right, so one drops. Let's take a look here. So we want to get early units out, and we want to have removal in this deck early, especially against aggro, and we want to have tricks. And so Greedo is an excellent card. It's a 3/1. It's an underworld unit for McClunky. And we can, when it dies, it can also do 2 damage to another ground unit to, from set 1. Very good. Cartel Turncoat, very strong card, 2/3 in space. When it dies, you get to draw, your opponent gets to draw a card, or when it's captured. But, often a lot of decks don't have a lot of turn 1 plays in space, and you can play Greedo Cartel Turncoat and be in space and in the ground on turn 1. So this deck has a lot of flexibility to lane dodge and not lane dodge at the same time in the same turn. So very, very good. And we'll get to the Cartel Turncoat in a second and why that's a really strong turn 1. So McClunky is really good because it works with Greedo and Cartel Turncoat. So turn 1, you can play Greedo or Cartel Turncoat, and you can play McClunky, thus doing 3 damage to your opponent's turn 1 play. I believe this kills almost every single unit in the game except for like units like R2-D2, and just very, very strong, right? Or like Regional Governor is like a 1/4, I believe, as well. So this card is going to take care of almost every single turn 1 play. Not always ideal, but going into aggro, having the flexibility to do that, to kill their Sabine, kill their Battlefield Marine, kill their A-Wing right away is really good. Or you can kind of play Cartel Turncoat if you have the initiative on turn 1, and if they play a space unit that can actually kill this, and then they would draw a card, you can play McClunky as a backup, bounce it, kill their unit. Now they have no Cartel Turncoat they can kill, but now they lost their turn 1 play. All right, so Swoop Down. This is a card I really wanted to test with. It's got Fett's Fire Spray on the art, so maybe you play some Boba Fett. Well, turns out playing this on Cartel Turncoat, man, I'm just going to say Turncoat. I don't want to keep saying that card's name. You can swoop down and clean up their ground unit. And this will make most, if not all, ground units, 1 or 0 power, and gives you up to 4 attack. So you can often play a 2-drop on turn 2 and then kill them with a swoop down. So very, very strong. And it's also going to be strong with a lot of the other space units we have in this deck as well. And I love that card. I actually got lucky. I think Cool Stuff Inc. had they mislabeled it. It's a rare, actually. Let me go back. It's a rare. And they had it mislabeled as a hyperfoil, and I got them for like $3 a piece. So I have a playset in the mail right now, a hyperfoil of this card. So really cool art on here. This card is probably going to see play for a long time. I don't know if it has a deck right now, but just what it does is it just gives you Saboteur in space, cheats actions, and you can attack anything. So it's pretty good. You're going to be able to get through, and the -2 attack on ground is can be very punishing, where it's just a straight cleanup. All right. And then shoot first, of course, for the ground. I've really toyed with cutting swoop down, cutting shoot first, 2 and 2, And I don't really know. To be honest, I don't have an exact number of what's right, but these cards feel really good when you play these really, really weak turn 1 plays that can die to a lot of stuff. But if you have the initiative, you can claim and then kill whatever they played with shoot first or swoop down. And that's kind of the idea here, is you want to control the bird until Lando can deploy and then kind of go crazy. So for 2-drops, we have Surprise Strike and Jetpack. Do not sleep on the Jetpack. This is going to see play. It's very good. It can smuggle in later. It gives a temporary shield token. So your opponent doesn't want to attack it because the shield token is just going to go away anyway. So a lot of times whatever unit you put this on, it just kind of sits around for a long time. I actually think did I pull one of these? Oh, you know what? It's in my binder. I think I pulled like a hyperspace version. The art isn't beautiful. And then Surprise Strike, of course, just to push damage. So this deck can go very, very fast because you can play Surprise Strike. You can play Jetpack when Lando is out for only 2 resources, which can protect Lando in some cases. And then you can attack for 4 with Lando and do some pretty crazy shenanigans with this deck. Of course, it is double cunning, so we will be playing the double cunning cards. We have Fugitive Wookiee. This is probably the best turn 1 play in the deck. When I added it to the deck, I started to win more, or actually just at least win the interactions early. 3/3 for 2 is the best rate in the game right now, I believe, for a 2-drop. And the downside is not that bad. Exhaust a unit, not that bad. Late game, you probably just resource this card. L337, really strong 2/2, comes into play shielded unless you rescue a unit, and you can smuggle it with Lando, so very, very good. I just think having this in the deck is a good turn 1 play. It's kind of nice because you can attach the blaster, which I'll get to in a little bit. Even though that's a 1-drop, it's technically costs 3, whichever way you end up playing it in this deck. So L337 is a 2/2 and comes into play shielded, so he's a great target for the upgrades because he can just kind of stick around. And then we got Bamboozle here. You can discard almost every card in the deck for free. To play this for free, exhaust a unit, return each upgrade on it to its owner's hand. Just really flexible card, good aggro attack, but Dr. Evazan, the 3/3 shielded, when it dies, you get to untap 12 resources. Sometimes you can kind of get away with tapping that, popping the shield by bouncing it, and then playing a bunch of stuff, killing Evazan, untapping your stuff, playing more stuff. So there's just a lot of interactions Bamboozle opens up for us. All right, so 3-drops here. We got Hand Hate with Bodhi Rook. Very, very good. 3/3 when played, look at an opponent's hand and discard a non-unit card from it. I mean, this is why we're playing Double Cunning. It's just really strong. And unfortunately, none of the new Double Cunning cards really fit into this deck because they're so top end. We do have one, and I believe that is DJ, because Smuggle is Double Cunning. When you smuggle DJ, take control of an enemy resource. When this unit leaves play, that resource's owner takes control of it. DJ is just crazy because with Lando, you can bring him out on the 5 resource turn. So if you have initiative against Boba Fett and they resource to 5, you can DJ, seal their 5th resource. They go down to 4. Boba Fett doesn't deploy this turn, and now they have 4 resources instead of 5 for the turn. I think DJ is why you play Double Cunning Lando. It's very, very magical Christmas land, but when you can get him out and your opponent has no way to deal with it, it is incredibly strong. I've even thought about putting in Gamorrean Guards, the 4/4 conditional Sentinel. If you have a Cunning unit, it has Sentinel. Just to have a card before DJ comes out to protect DJ, so I can have a 4/4 Sentinel, smuggle in DJ. It's just so good. The problem is he's just a vanilla 3/5 and doesn't do anything. So stealing a resource can be really good, but at the same time, he's hard to protect. He's very difficult to protect because he doesn't kill back a lot of units, and a lot of units can attack in and kill him. So that's the problem I have with DJ. But again, even just playing him for 3, he's a 3/5. I mean, Cassian is a 3/5 rebel for 3. So it's at rate. The new rate for 3-drops is 3/5 in this set. So he's perfectly at rate. It is sad that he is a legendary. So that means he's probably going to be expensive, and I don't think he's necessary for the deck, but he's very, very good. All right, Smuggler Starfighter, 2/2 for 3. You can smuggle it in for 2 or 4, 2 with the Lando's effect or Lando's ability. When played, if you control another underworld unit, give an enemy unit -3/-0. There are some non-underworld units in this deck, but this is a very strong card, Smuggler Starfighter. Sometimes I'll play it on turn 2, make their 1-drop, do nothing, and then kill it with Greedo. It's basically Jedha City on a stick, is how I say. And it's kind of sad because Jedha City just isn't good, and they just put Jedha City on a unit, so now you have less of a reason to play Jedha City now. But I like the Smuggler Starfighter because he can hit, or it doesn't have a gender, it can hit leader units. So you can -3 Sabine, you can -3 Boba, you can -3 Lando, you can -3 the new Han Solo, the young Han. So it's a very good card, and the fact that it can hit anything is what I think makes it pretty good. Again, just sometimes it is weird when you play this card and then, they have to claim because they have no power. So it's very good against aggro in that sense, where you can just blank their whole turn by their turn of attacking by playing the Smuggler Starfighter and developing your own board. I wish it was like a 2/3 though, or a 3/2, because it doesn't trade into a lot. The Millennium Falcon, not much needs to be said about this card. It's very good. I don't like that you have to pay 1 in this deck. I think Yellow Sabine is the only deck that doesn't care about paying the 1 because it's such a flexible deck. This deck really needs that 4th resource because we're going to get to those 4-drops in a second here. Oh, we have the Hotshot Blaster, which costs 3 to smuggle in. And then since it's a red card, this is a yellow deck only. And so it would cost 3 to play from hand. And this card is very good. I've beaten green Sabines, I've beaten yellow Bobas in testing, because if you can just double Hotshot Blaster, Hotshot Blaster attack for 5. Let's say they can't kill your unit for some reason because you pulled in Smuggler Starfighter, they attack and play stuff. You claim, play another Hotshot Blaster and hit for 6 or maybe even for 8, depending on the original power of that unit that was upgraded. It's just very, very good, and it's action economy. And then when they attack into the unit you've upgraded, they take that damage back because that +2 isn't on like an event. It sticks around, and they often have to lose their unit to just kill your unit, and you're fine doing that because you have so much smuggle. All right, full drops, Cunning, just the best event in the game. You can make control discard their cards. You can give +4 to a unit to tempo out decks. You can exhaust 2 bounce unit against aggro. You can tap units against mid-range and give +4 to Lando, hit for 6. I've done that a lot, and just you're out tempoing your opponent quite a bit there. Aztec Gunship, again, space hate, 3/4 ambush. Not much needs to be said. We do like having space units because we are running swoop down, so we can easily kill some of their units and keep our units alive and kind of hit critical mass on the board state. We got Kira, Underworld, look at opponent's hand, name a card. While the student's in play, each card with his name costs 3 more. Just a very good card in this deck. A lot of times I'll play Kira before I deploy Lando, and they have a takedown. Well, I name takedown. Now they can't kill Kira and they cannot kill Lando with an event, and they have to play like a 2-drop unit instead. And so I just love Kira. Lots of information, helps you play around what they're doing. And you get to name a card, which can be really good by being able to name a card, and you can just blank their entire turn. And then 5 to 6 drops here. This is where the deck kind of rounds out. 1 Chewie and 3 Falcons. The 6 drop, Lando's Pride Falcon. So we got Sentinel, of course, to protect Lando. And also, Chewbacca's just really good with that Hotshot Blaster. You can just give Chewie the jetpack and give him a shield, and he's a 5/6 with a shield attack with him. And then if they attack Chewie, you get to untap him, attack with him again. Honestly, there's probably a deck here for Chewbacca that would just make him really, really good in terms of like buffing him up and then attacking with him. And then if they attack into him, he can get readied and you can attack again. Just seems really good. Maybe there's like a Wookiee deck or something like that somebody can build. And then you can cheat the Falcon on the Lando turn. So when Lando flips, and if Lando lives, you can pay 4 instead of 6 and pull in a 5/5 space unit, which is very, very strong. Some decks just don't have an answer to a 5/5 in space on 4 resources. Like, that's just really, really fast. There's not a lot of answers to that. Like Cunning can't bounce it because it has 5 power. Takedown hits it, and Fell the Dragon does hit it. But that's if they're playing blue. And then if you don't smuggle it and you pay 6, it does ambush in, which is that last sentence here. Falcon is just a highly underrated card right now. And I think that we're going to see this card played a lot more in these colors, because a 5/5 space unit that kills something and probably doesn't die in return is kind of what you want in space, since ambush is such a sparse keyword in that arena. There's only a handful of cards in the game that have that, and so being able to just do that in space is really good. You get immediate value when you play it, and you get to display it again. So do you play Jedha City? I don't think so, but if you're thinking about it, why, you can trade efficiently, you can save your units. It's good in mirror matches, and like if there's a Lando mirror match, you could, shut off one of their units and kill it. And then Sentinel, get rid of Sentinels. Maybe it's worth it. I don't know. I did test it. It just felt like a lot of games that I won with it. It was like, I feel like I would have won anyways. And a lot of games that I lost, I was like, man, if I had 5 more life, at least this would have went 2 more actions or something like that. And so I have a hard time thinking Jedha City is the right base for this deck. And then the leader, this is the leader, amazing showcase, probably one of the best showcases in my opinion, because it does have that sweet, sweet Falcon in the background. Wish it was zoomed out a little bit so we could see that Falcon back there. That'd be cool kind of angle of that art in the game. So same deploy as Sabine, can deploy late game instead of early. You don't need to deploy right away like you do with Sabine for the most part. You can pop off with 3 to 5 cards being played depending on the resource pile. And so that's the problem I have with this deck, is sometimes you just play a game and you're like, man, I didn't draw those resource cards early, and there are a lot in the deck, but I didn't draw them. And so now I don't have a lot of cards in my resource pile that I can smuggle. And that seems to be the problem in double yellow. I will say it wasn't that bad, but it does happen. And I've seen the red versions, but double yellow having access to Cantina Bouncer, Cunning. Actually, you know what? I think I missed the Bouncer. Let's go back. I might have missed that card. I did. Yeah, Cantina Bouncer is a 3/5 when played. You may return a non-leader unit. That is just a very, very strong 5-drop. Again, just being able to bounce an upgraded unit or something like that instead of playing Chewy. And then, all right, so the sideboard here, this is what really gets interesting for me. You have a lot of options here. You can play Smuggler's Aid, which is a 1 cost, or you can smuggle it, and it does heal 3 damage from your base. You can play Spark of Rebellion against control. You can play Tech against control. You can kind of do this 2-ofs or 1-ofs. Like you could put Swoop Down and Shoot First in your sideboard and take them out of the main deck. You could play your 3rd L3. You can put upgrades in here, take them out. I think what's really difficult is that this deck feels extremely complicated to play. It's one of the highest skill ceilings of set 2, in my opinion, just based off of the new leaders specifically. It feels like the Han of set 2 in some ways, where you're just like when you play this, it's just so difficult because you're just like looking at your resources constantly, because this deck should play an abnormal amount of smuggle cards on purpose. And so it does have a lot of complexity, which makes me think that there might be a Lando deck this set or next set that is very, very, very good and has a lot of options. This deck feels very toolboxy, which creates a very fun play experience. I feel like I can always do something. It may not win me the game, but I can always do cool stuff. Pulling out a 5/5 space unit on turn 3 feels really cool. Is it worth it? Maybe not, but it's a very, very fun deck to play. And I share this because I do think that, let me go back here to the beginning. I do think that this deck is really fun to play. And I think if you're looking for something to pivot into, to bring to locals, I think that this would be the deck I would bring. I'm actually considering building this deck just because of how fun it is and how you can you can upgrade your units and try and push damage. You can trade with McClunkies and Swoop Downs and Shoot Firsts. You can bounce and tap. You can steal resources. You can pick apart their hand. There's a lot of lines of play with this deck. And so because you can just get rid of cards and smuggle them later, it gives you options. You're not committed to a certain play line. You can always, resource the upgrades. And if you want them, you can play them. You don't always have to play the upgrade version of the deck, right? And so that's what's really cool about the deck is when you resource things away, they're not gone. And in some decks, they're kind of gone, even if they do have smuggle, because the smuggle cost is too steep to realistically play it, depending on the context of a game you play through. And so this deck is just really fun to play overall. I would highly recommend trying it out. Any changes I would make, maybe adding Tech to the main board, just because he's a 2/5 for 3. It's like really hard to kill that unit. So maybe you play him and then you could throw on the blaster on him or something like that. That's a consideration. There's considerations around playing Spark of Rebellion in the main deck. Maybe you do that. Maybe there's considerations for playing some of the bounties that let you untap resources. It's tough to say, but overall, there's a lot of options for the deck, and it's very, very fun to play. So I hope you found this video helpful. And if you're looking, I think it is a bit overwhelming going into set 2 and looking at all the options, because in Star Wars Unlimited, every card is playable. Not like you should play that, but it literally is playable. So there's a lot of complexity to this game, and this list felt really, really fun. It felt really good. So if you're looking for something fun to play that can beat your friends, but isn't Sabine, because man, Sabine can be boring after jamming. How many games have we played with Sabine? If you're a Sabine player, you're playing it because it's good, but it doesn't always feel fun. And so I want to make sure that we're still having fun with the game, and this is one of those decks. And I would strongly encourage, if you want to try this deck out, bring it to your locals, and it will make you a better player because it'll force you to think harder about the play lines. And I think there's something interesting about that and stretching yourself and growing in the complexity of a deck, and not to shy away from that. So let me know if you guys like this, and if you have any suggestions, let me know if you got a Lando deck that is crushing it, because Lando is probably my favorite leader from this set, even though I know that he doesn't necessarily have the most broken combination. He's a very fun leader to play, very cool ability, great art, great color combination, and it's super fun. So let me know if you have any suggestions down below. Thank you so much, and I'll talk to you next time.